people whose identity is not locked up so much in who they are, but in what they do. You know, there's and it's built around the writing world where you know, I think there's a lot of people out in the world who want to be writers, and you know, struggle whether or not to call themselves writers. You know, it's like, well, if you write in your journal every day, are you a writer? You know, if do you have to get published? Do you have to be on the New York Times bestseller list to be a writer? You know, do you have to have a screenplay turned into a movie to be a writer? So it's a world I'm very familiar with, having been to any number of writers' festivals. My wife is a novelist, so I tag along with her. And in fact, we were just in one in Savannah, Georgia last weekend, where we kept walking around saying, wow, this is just like the movie. But yes, there's you know, there's very much of a human hierarchy in there that people have done, you know, and so they put Shriver at the top of the pyramid, even though he doesn't think he belongs there. And then there's Simone, and there's Teresa, the young teaching assistant there, who you know, who wants to kind of climb that ladder. We have no idea if any of these people are actually good writers. I think that's the that's kind of the running joke if you look there, and we don't even know that Shriver's a good writer.
It felt a little like you knew a lot about that world. I don't mean the part that he's a fish out of water, but more the academic work. Can you explain that? You said a little like your wife is a novelist and all that.
Yeah, well, it is a fish out of water because, I mean, Shriver is, you know, a guy who does repair work in a slum building in New York, in the same building he lives in. You can find him at a bar before breakfast in the morning, and his best friend is a little bit of a lunatic. So you meet all of that at the beginning, and then yes, you put him in this academic world, and a place where there's worship of writers. I think that's more it's not the academic world so much, but a place where he is going to be worshipped and adored and can do no wrong. And even when he says, well, actually, I'm not the guy, people don't believe him. You know, it's people's, there's also an element of people's need to believe what their preconceptions are and what they want to believe. They want to believe that they're hanging around with this famous writer.
What I felt a little about Shriver, people not accepting that, no, people accept it. No, what I felt is that sometimes we mythify writers. And if a writer behaves in a way that is not appropriate, we like it. We assume that they're like that. If he was saying, I'm not the writer, we thought that he was just eccentric, you know, in a way.
Well, exactly, you know, and I think it's not just writers. I think it's a lot of artists. I think we as a society put up with a lot of bad behavior from creative people, you know, and I think that's largely projection, which is, well, from people thinking that, well, like that's what I want to be able to do. I want to be able to go to a dress party in my crappy blue jeans. Actually, I do that. I'm wearing a black T-shirt now, and I mean, this is in blue jeans. That's pretty much all I ever wear. And yeah, so you do get away with certain things. There's the line where Simone says to him, "You're the writer. You can do anything you want." No.
It's true. There's like, yeah, we even look for weirdness or antisocial behavior in a way. What would you say Shriver is looking for? Why does he accept the invitation? Because the gift is not that big, or right?
Well, first of all, he's not the one who accepts the invitation. His buddy sends the letter back saying he's going to come because his. And I think Shriver gets the then they send him a, you know, a plane voucher in the mail for the flight, and he's there like, oh well, I'm kind of stuck. But the other part of it, and I think it's the key moment is very much at the end. I mean, I don't want to give away too much about it. Where Simone looks at him and says, well, it's the difference between what you think and what you know. And sometimes we think things, but internally we have a deeper knowledge. And so what causes Shriver really to respond to that invitation is a part of himself that's fighting to get out. And
Yeah.
that was really my intention when I wrote the script.
I thought Michael did a great job, because when I was watching the movie, I felt he was so awkward and uncomfortable being someone else, and I actually didn't want anybody to find out. So I bought the story in a way, and I got a little anxious sometimes. So I think you guys did a great job together.
Well, I mean, you know, Michael's amazing, and I think, you know, he responded to the script in a way because I think he understood the character. He understood what the character was going through because he had been there. And I think a lot of actors and artists and writers have a feeling at some point like, well, I mean, I published a book years ago. It was a dream of mine, and I went on this nationwide tour. And I remember that feeling of like getting up in front of an auditorium of like 300 people to talk. They'd all come to hear me talk about my book. And it was a completely out of body experience. You know, that person standing up there talking like that, that's not me, you know. I mean, I'm still the 12-year-old kid who got cut from the baseball team, you know, and we carry that with us. And so when there's a sense when we move on, when we succeed at something, you know, that child in us is looking at what we've become, and there's a separation there. And that's, I actually ran the script by a couple of psychiatrists to make sure I was getting the tone of that correct. And
Really?
Michael just nailed it.
What did they say? I'm interested in the psychiatric aspects of the conflict that the main character has.
Well, it's disassociative, I believe is the word that came. This is a couple of years ago because it's been a long time since I actually wrote the script. But there's a sense of disassociating yourself from your own actions. Now, it's done in a film that is sort of very light, and it's easy to not pay any attention to all of that. You know, I think if I were making a moody French film about it, for example, you know, there would be a lot more sort of angst and hair pulling and a lot more cigarette smoking and stuff like that. But I kept it on I made it a point of trying to also play it off at this mystery level of, oh my God, I hope he doesn't get caught because we like him.
I felt that I don't want him to get caught because he's having he's feeling very uncomfortable. We want him to succeed. But also Lenny, the character, tells Shriver, well, don't worry, everybody, you just have to complain about not being able to write and everybody will believe that you're a writer. So are you trashing writers?
No, I mean, this is Lenny's view. I mean, the line that Lenny says is, everybody's a writer these days. When was the last time you're in a Starbucks? You know, and you do.
Right.
If you walk into any Starbucks in New York, there's 12 people in there working on their novel.
It's totally true, right?
Oh yeah, well, I always, you know, I'm from Boston, and so I mean, I always say if you walk into a Starbucks in Boston, there's a bunch of people in there, and then they're all working on their dissertations. In New York, everybody's writing a novel, and in LA, everybody's writing a screenplay. But you know, there's a performative aspect to being a writer. where, I mean, I'm sitting at my desk right now as I talk to you, but sometimes I grab my laptop and I go sit in a coffee shop and try to work just to change the atmosphere.
In few words, can you tell us what the film is about? Because I won't be narrating prior to your appearance.
The film is really a comedy of mistaken identity. And it's somebody who gets in, the writer, Michael Shannon's character, wants to bail out of a situation. He has an escape, but he realizes that his being the writer, his playing that role, is very important to Kate Hudson's character, Simone, who brings him there. He understands that she's put a lot on the line to bring him there. So he decides that, all right, he's going to, even though this character has never read a book in his life, that he's going to do his best to act like a writer. And that's when there's a scene where he's in the auditorium and he asks a question to the African-American poet who's reading, and the whole audience just groans like, oh my God, you don't ask that kind of question. And he's out of it. He has no purchase in the world that we live in today, and in the literary world. That was my one nod to him, like, running afoul of academia. And then he's forgiven because his naivete kind of comes through. He's also forgiven because people want to believe that he's well, he was the main thing. This is I didn't tell Michael Shannon a lot about how to act. I didn't have to direct him very much, but I think one of the only things I ever said to him at the beginning is, what defines the character Shriver is that he's kind, and it's his kindness and his kind of interest in caring about other people that it starts to get him into a little bit of trouble.
In a way, Shriver, the fake non-writer, looks like a writer actually, because of the idea that this will be my last question because we need to wrap up.
You mean Zach Braff's character? Yes. Well, he comes on and he's playing and he's obnoxious. Right? He's absolutely obnoxious about everything, and I know how that goes. Writers, at a writers' conference, checking into a hotel and going, no, I need a bigger room than that, or I need a black SUV to take me from the airport. There is a certain amount of ego involved in that, and so I think people then actually, he's very convincing as a writer, because he's kind of a dick, which is what people often expect.